Hey, what it do, baby boo? In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to jungle, but more specifically, I'm going to be giving you 15 actionable tips that you can use today to improve your jungling skills instantly. The tips that I'm about to share with you, I learned from my good friend Sungho. Before Sungho moved back to Korea, he was a challenger mid and jungle main who taught me these tips. With these tips, I was able to climb from silver to diamond in 3 weeks. I got to challenger a few seasons ago, and I was also able to play with I Will Dominate when he moved to OCE for a little bit.
When you're close to a lane like that, you should always glance at the lane to see the lane situation. Wow, Swiffer, you got clapped.
But before you jump into the video, I just want to give you a quick word of warning. These tips that you're about to learn aren't your average tips that you would have heard in other videos. These tips are proven strategies that you can use to improve your jungling skills right now. The timestamps for the tips are in the description box below. So without further ado, let's crack into the guide. Tip number 1 is going to teach you a 3-step process to help you balance ganking and farming. If you have a problem with balancing your ganking and farming, then you most likely have a problem with recognizing ganks that are available. So if you increase this skill, what will happen is that you'll only go for ganks if they're 100% guaranteed, and when the gank isn't available, you don't force it, you just go back to farming. With that being said, the 3-step process looks a little something like this. Step number 1, we take our cursor and we put it over the minimap and left click. Step number 2 is we perform a gank analysis, and step number 3 is if the gank is available, you go for it, and if the gank is not available, you just go back to farming, okay? You play the safe route. We'll run through that process, now we go through the gank analysis. Question number 1, is the enemy laner pushed up far enough? Because I went for a gank on this person before on Vel'Koz, they have no flash, and it's Vel'Koz, so they have low mobility, so the person, in a sense, is pushed up far enough. Step number 2, do we have enough damage to kill this person? I'm Vi, I have red buff, I've got electrocute, and TF has ignite as well. Question number 3, do we have any CC to work with? And the answer to that question is yes. We've got the Q from me, we've got a hard stun from TF, and then this is the result. And then bang, 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 see ya. Just remember that after performing the gank analysis, if the gank isn't available, you go back to farming. You don't try and force the gank. Tip number 2 is to use the Lawn Mower Method to close out games when you have the lead. One problem a lot of low elo junglers struggle with is that when they have the lead, they don't actually know what to do with it. And the idea of this Lawn Mower Method is that it's going to teach you what to do with that lead and how to close out the game as fast as possible so that you don't end up throwing the game. Your goal is to take all of these tier turrets first, okay, the first tier turrets. You want to take all of them before you even think about moving on to the next tier turrets, which is the second tier. And then you take all of the second tier turrets before you even think about moving on to the third tier turrets. If you're following the lawnmower method, the question isn't which objective do I take, the question is which first tier turret do I take first. The first turret in the whole entire game that you're going to try to take is the turret of your laner that's already winning. Okay, so for example, let's say I'm on the blue side and it's 8 minutes into the game and I recognize that my mid lane Fizz is going off his nut. He's going crazy. He's got 3 kills. What I would do is I would say, okay, so let's go for a kill onto the enemy mid laner and then let's take this turret as soon as possible. And then once I take this turret, let's go use this pressure that we've created mid and let's go create more pressure in the bottom lane. And then once we create that pressure in the bottom lane, we can take this first tier turret and then we go back to base, buy items, and then we can rotate top and get this turret. And then once we've taken all of these turrets, okay, then we can think about moving on to the next tier turrets, whether it's mid, top, bot. Lastly, if you can't take any turret at all that you have to do is try to go for a dragon or a rift herald or a baron. By the way, if you're a jungler and you're watching this and you want the opportunity to win a jungle coaching package valued at $160, all you have to do is stay till the end of this video. Tip number 3, I'm going to be showing you how to know which is the best lane to gank before the game starts. So there's a 2-step process that you can use to identify the best lane to gank. Step number 1 is during the loading screen, you look at your allies and you identify which allies have the heaviest form of CC. And then step number 2 is that when the game starts, you gank that lane as much as possible. So here's another example. Step number 1 is to identify your laners with the heaviest form of CC. We have Yasuo mid with his tornado thingy. We have Rakan with her jump and then, or his jump and then his CC. And then we have point and click CC from Maokai. The best answer would probably be either Maokai or Rakan. Yasuo is kind of too difficult to hit the CC with, and a lot of Yasuo players are shit anyway. So if I was playing this game and I was Kindred, then I'd most likely avoid Yasuo and I'd try to get ganks off for either Maokai, who has point and click CC, or Rakan. Tip number 4, I'm going to show you how to find the best jungle pathing for your specific champion in under 60 seconds. Okay, so it's super simple. First off, you look at my eyebrows. Step number 1 is you go to the description box of this video and you click on show more. Step number 2 is you scroll to the bottom of the description box and you click on the link below Diamond Jungler Implementation Toolkit, and it's going to bring you to this page over here. You have to make your own file or your own copy, okay, so all you have to do is go File, make a copy, and then you just save it. Once you have your own copy, step 3 is that you go to this box over here and you click on the drop down box and you pick whichever jungler you want. And then once you click on the drop down box and you click on whichever champion you want, like Rek'Sai, the answer is right here. I created the spreadsheet myself to help you as much as possible. So here is the best jungle path and route for your champion. This actually brings up another point, and there's a common mistake that low elo junglers make that's heavily screwing up their jungle play and it's decreasing their win rate. If low elo junglers fix this mistake, they'll find that their jungle play and their win rate will just skyrocket. If you want to find out what this mistake is and how to fix it, then all you have to do is watch a couple more minutes into this video and I'll be revealing what it is. In tip number 5, I'm going to show you how to increase your win rate by tilting your enemy laners. I'm guessing if you're watching this, you understand how toxic League of Legends can be. That might seem like a bad thing, but it's actually a good thing if you're watching this video, because I'm about to show you a strategy that can essentially tilt the enemy laners and make it a 4v5. And this is what I call the feed the fire strategy. It's a simple 2-step process. Step number 1 is to identify the laner that's already losing. And step number 2 is that you just gank that laner at least one more time to really upset this dude. One tip that you can use to identify the tilting laner is just make sure that you pay attention to all chat. If they go off their nut or if they just start raging in all chat, that's a really good target. And one bonus tip that I used to use when I was climbing from silver to diamond is that I would identify the laner, I would gank them, and then I would ask them in all chat where their enemy jungler is. And that just really sets things off and gets them raging at their own teammates, which is exactly what you want. Tip number 6, I'm going to show you how to counter jungle safely. Counter jungling is a super easy and effective way to shut down the enemy jungler while further snowballing your own lead. And one of the best ways to counter jungle safely is to counter jungle when the enemy jungler is on the opposite side of the map. It's a simple 2-step process to counter jungle safely. Step number 1 is identify when the enemy jungler is on the opposite side of the map. Okay, so in this clip, Peanut is playing Nidalee, and Peanut is farming his topside jungle at his Raptors, and he spots that Rengar gank spot and he gets a kill. So there are 2 ways to identify when the enemy jungler is on the opposite side of the map. Number 1, either you use your minimap awareness, and while you're jungling, doing your farming or you're walking between camps, you look at the minimap. Or number 2, you just wait until your laners die, and then once they've died, you look at your minimap, you see if the enemy jungler is there, and if he's there, then you can move on to step 2, which is move into his jungle on the opposite side of the map and take as many camps as possible. Tip number 7 is I'm going to be showing you how to find the best jungle champions to climb with. Okay, step number 1 is to go to the description box of the video you're watching now and click show more. Step number 2 is to go to the bottom of the description box and then you click on the jungle champion cheat sheet, the link below it. Okay, so you click on that. It's another resource I created to help you out, and pretty much it's going to bring up a list of every jungle champion in League of Legends, the type of jungle champion that they are, the champion strengths, so what they excel at, the game phase that they have their power spike in, and also a quick strategy on how to play them. This is a pretty popular resource. There's 59 total viewers on reading this resource right now. And then what you're going to do with the spreadsheet is you're going to pick a maximum of 3 jungle champions to climb with. Anywhere between 1 and 3 is completely fine. The number 1 requirement if you're low elo and you're watching this is you pick champions that fit your playstyle well. If you're completely new to this game and you don't know which one to pick, here are some recommendations down here which are still really strong picks. They're really easy to play and they do a good amount of damage and they're relatively tanky, which is why I picked them. Tip number 8, I'm going to be showing you one easy fix that will improve your jungling skills instantly. Now this is the mistake that I was previously referencing towards, and like I said, if you fix this mistake, your jungling skills are going to skyrocket. And the mistake is that a lot of low elo junglers, they tend to spend their time and they tend to invest too much into lanes that are already losing. So if you want to improve your jungling skills instantly, all you have to do is follow this 3-step process. So step number 1 is to press tab during the game. Step number 2 is to identify which laners are doing well and which ones are doing terrible. And step number 3 is to avoid the lanes that are doing bad and help the laners that are doing well. So in this example, we press tab. We can see that Renekton is doing pretty bad. He's 0 and 2. So we would avoid Renekton this game and we would help mid and bot. Even though these guys aren't completely going off their nut, we would still want to try and help these people compared to helping Renekton. This method applies to this situation here where these guys are relatively even, but it applies even more if Malzahar was like 3 and 0 or 6 and 0 or something. You would want to help this dude compared to helping Renekton. Tip number 9 is one simple tip you can use to avoid tilt and improve your jungling skills instantly. LoL players, they're usually very good at playing multiple games, but they're not very good at having rests and taking breaks from the game. And breaks are required if you want to improve and avoid tilt. So the tip is to take a 5 to 10 minute break after every single game that you play. So here's what I used to do when I was climbing to Challenger. After every game, I take a 5 to 10 minute break During that break, I go get a drink of water, I'll go outside and I'll do some exercise. Like I'll either go for a walk or I'll do some stretching, or so I'll do some body weight exercises or something like that. Tip number 10 is I'm going to be showing you how to find the best item paths for your specific jungler. So it's real simple. All you have to do is go to the Diamond Jungler Implementation Toolkit that I referenced to before. So that's step 1. Step 2 is you legit just click on whichever one you want. So let's go Olaf, and you will click on, you get this link here. It's the best runes and masteries, but it's also got the itemization. And pretty much it will bring you the best item paths and masteries that the Korean players use, the best Korean Olaf players use. So they go Cinderhulk, Righteous Glory, Warmogs, or you could go into this one. I usually go just with the one at the top because it's the most popular. And then if you want runes and masteries down here, they've got recommendations as well. Another few things I just wanted to say about this toolkit is that I've included jungle pathing for you. So level 3 ganks would be red wolves, blue gank, depending on which side you are. I've got the farming route and I've got the level 2 invade route. And it's also got the gank analysis right here as well. Do we have enough damage? Is my enemy overextended? And do we have any CC to work with? Tip number 11 is here are 3 tips to help you improve your minimap awareness. So tip number 1 is to literally just look at your minimap. While I'm clearing my jungle, I spend roughly 80% of my time legit just looking straight at my minimap. What this does for me is that it helps me set up potential ganks. For example, in this clip, I was spending a lot of time just looking at the minimap, nothing else, and I saw that Cho'Gath is pushed up, number 1, and number 2, he hasn't even been out of range, like he hasn't gone down here to ward or anything. So doing that method can help you set up potential ganks. Tip number 2 is to take your cursor and legit just left click on the part of the map that you want to get some information on. For example, I know that Cho'Gath has he hasn't warded yet and he's pushed up, but maybe I want to see how much health he has. So I would legit just take my cursor, left click on the thing, and I'll be like, oh yo, this seems like a pretty good gank. And then tip number 3 is one that LS made popular, and I call it the F key method. And all you do is you use your F keys, F1 to F5, to quickly take your camera and you place it on top of that particular champion. Now there are 3 specific scenarios where you can use these tips. Scenario number 1 is while you're clearing your jungle. Scenario number 2 is when you're walking from camp to camp. And scenario number 3 is when you're going back to base, like you've done the recall animation, and then you're going to your next camp. There's one particular thing that these 3 scenarios have in common, and that's that there's a lot of time that is wasted doing absolutely nothing. For example, you're clearing your jungle, you've done your cooldowns or whatever. You can use that time while you're auto-attacking the thing to use the minimap method. You could do this one, or you could just look at it, or you could use the F keys. Tip number 12 is I'm going to be showing you one strategy that you can use to stop your laners from tilting you. With the role as a jungler, you are going to get laners who they just ping the shit out of you, or they just tell you to always come to their lane even though they're 0 and 3. You're gonna have laners that they legitimately have no idea what they're talking about. If you really want to stop your laners from tilting you and you don't want to put up with any freaking bullshit that they have to throw at you, all that you have to do is before the game starts, you press enter and you type dash mute all. When you really think about it, the chat doesn't really contribute to you guys winning the game anyway, so you might as well just mute them, and it takes away the chance that the laners are going to tilt you. Tip number 13 is I'm going to show you one tip that you can use to make your teammates follow your shot calling. And just really put real bluntly, the simple tip is that you don't get your teammates to follow your shot calling. Now, you can do the best that you can. If you see an objective up and if you want to ping it and your teammates follow, that's great, that's awesome. But in the more likely chance that they don't follow your shot call, it's actually really, really simple what you have to do. All that you have to do is step 1, you look at the minimap and you analyze which objective your teammates are going for. And step number 2 is that you stop doing whatever objective you think is the right one and you go do what they're doing. Even if your objective is the better one to take, it's better to have 100% of people follow an average call compared to 50-50 following 2 different calls. Tip number 14 is going to show you 2 strategies you can use to stop the enemy jungle from ganking your laners. So tip number 1 is just to use your trinket. The best places to trinket to stop the enemy jungler from ganking is in the jungle entrances/exits. Okay, so that would be somewhere like here, or here. But these are so good because these are really popular areas for the jungler to be on, and if you're able to spot him with your wards, then you're able to prevent enemy jungle ganks. But this leads on to point number 2, which is to use your pings. So sometimes, let's say Twitch is on this side of the map and I place a ward here because I have a feeling that he's going to go for a gank on Malzahar. Malzahar isn't focusing on what the enemy jungle is doing or what I'm doing, so sometimes the ward isn't good enough, so you have to ping this like 3 or 4 times. His attention will be brought to the pings, which means that he'll see Twitch, which means that he's going to play safe for the next few seconds or so. And then to take that step even further, you can ping the opposite side of the map that you're on to play safe. For example, if Twitch was to come here, I'm actually in range for a counter gank. But let's say this lane was like a bit, pushed up, Vayne and Leona are over here, and I'm farming Raptors. I want to ping these guys to play safe because I don't know if Twitch is going to go bot. And if Twitch does go bot, then I'm not in position for a counter gank. And the last tip of the video is I'm going to show you exactly what you need to do if your jungle is getting invaded. So step number 1 is to get vision control of your jungle. So the two best places to ward, in my opinion, are the jungle entrance over here, and then a ward over here is really good as well if your jungle keeps getting invaded. Step number 2 is to farm as much as possible. Farm all the camps that are available. If the enemy jungle took one side of your camps, just go to the other side and farm these camps. Step number 3 is to make picks. Picks are the fastest way to come back into the game if you're behind, and that's what step number 1 is for, is to set up vision control so you can make picks. So maybe the enemy jungle tries to come and farm your raptors, and because you have the vision control, you can close in on him with your mid laner. So we're back. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did like the video, and if you want more jungle content designed to help you climb the solo queue ladder, then all you have to do is click the subscribe button below and you turn the bell notifications on. The winner of the coaching package from my last video, his name is Abdul. So Abdul, if you're watching this, all you have to do is hit me up on Facebook, send me a message there, and I'll send you your jungle coaching package. So if you want to win another jungle coaching package valued at $160, all that you have to do is comment below, comment with your favorite jungle comment with your favorite jungle tip that you learned from this video. Secondly, I do internet marketing, that's how I make my money, and one of my key business mentors, his name is Ian. Ian created a course recently that teaches you how to make money online. I don't get paid at all to do this. I just know that Ian helped me a lot with my internet marketing stuff, and maybe he could help you do the same. The course is completely free, you don't have to pay anything for it. All you have to do is go to this link somewhere here and you sign up, and then you start going through the course. And then this is the last thing I'll say. There was a comedian named Johnny Danger. He's a New Zealand comedian, and this dude, honestly, he was a really good dude. Like, I followed him on Snapchat and Instagram heaps, and he actually passed away recently, which was really sad. So this is my way of sending my condolences to Johnny Danger's family and just giving the old rest in peace to Johnny Danger. Anyways, that's all I got to say. Have a good day. I love you. Stay beautiful. Shana Docs.